Welcome back to the OzConnection. I'm your host again, Colin for this week's episode of the OzConnection, OzCon International's official YouTube channel. Join us at OzCon International, 19th of July to 20th of July over in Pomona, South California. In this episode, I have two special guests with me where we're going to discuss the new adaptation that's coming for the Patchwork Girl of Oz, L. Frank Baum's 1913 Seventh Oz book in comic form. And joining with me is Anna Marie Kull. Hello, Anna.
Hello.
Lovely to have you here, Anna.
Lovely to be here. Thank you.
Fabulous. And Andy Mangels. Hello, Andy.
Hi, Colin. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you again for joining us on the channel as well, Andy. It's the first time for both of you, so it's great to have you here.
Fantastic. I've been to OzCon before. That was a lot of fun.
Andy is actually USA's today's best-selling author and co-author of 30 fiction and non-fiction books, including Star Trek, Roswell, Iron Man, X-Files, and Star Wars tomes. And over the last 39 years, Andy's comic book work has been seen from DC Comics, Marvel Comics, Image, Dark Horse, and others, and he was the editor of an award-winning gay comics anthology for 8 years. So you've not been doing a great deal there, Andy.
I always say, I mean, back in the old days, they had this thing called plate spinning, where they put plates on tops of poles and they spun them, and then the people who were more successful at it could do like 5 or 6 or 8 or something like that. And I always say I'm spinning about 30 plates at any one time. It's crazy making.
I think you're doing that now.
Yeah.
Well, we're very grateful to have you here, Andy. So what's your connection to Oz then? Because this Patchwork Girl of Oz project, which is a Kickstarter, which we'll get into in a little bit, but what is your connection to Oz? I know from OzCon, but of course the audience may not know.
My connection to Oz actually began when I was a kid in Montana. I was a very precocious kid, so I was reading college level by first grade. And my favorite place to be in life was the library. And any book that was more fantastical in nature, if it was about mythology or fantastical characters or superheroes, I loved. I didn't as much like science fiction as much as I did the fantastical stuff, if it was magical. Because for some reason to me, magic seemed more real than reality. I have no idea why. Back then, back in the 70s, Wizard of Oz used to air on television once a year, and it was either Easter or Thanksgiving, and then Sound of Music would air the other holiday. One of them would air every year, and so it was a thing that families would at holiday dinner would sit down to watch Wizard of Oz. And my family did that. I had a storybook record and things like that. But the odd thing was that I never knew I knew from reading a book that Oz changed color, but I never saw it in color until I was an adult. So, because we watched it on a black and white television, so I knew that conceptually that it changed color, but I had never seen Oz in color until then. But I read all the original Riley, the white editions. That was what my school library carried, and I can still remember exactly what shelf they were on in my school library. If I went back to that grade school library today, I could be like, there's where they are. You know?
You're very lucky because my library had zilch, none. We hardly had any Oz books in the UK. It was a real deadly desert in terms of Oz in our life.
Yeah, and I feel like in comics until Eric Shanauer came along, Oz got a great disservice in that all there was really the adaptation of the first movie and then the adaptation of the second book in tabloid form, Whereas it seemed like the most obvious thing to me that if of all the things out there that should have been in comics, Oz should have been in comics. And so I was so thrilled when Eric started his line of graphic novels, and that was very early on in my career was when he started doing those. And I remember thinking, oh, I want to write an Oz graphic novel. I want to work on Oz as well. And I did, but that's for another question.
And we'll definitely circle back round to Eric, good friend of the channel and of OzCon International, and personal friend as well. So I know he's involved in this, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So over to Anna. Anna has a career spanning over 3 decades. Anna Maria Cool has been celebrated artist, storyteller for comic books, children's books, greetings cards. She specialized in graphic illustrations at the prestigious Joe Kubert School of Cartoon and Graphic Art before working on Hallmark cards as an illustrator, specializing in licensed characters and interpreting and design drawing characters such as Garfield, Winnie the Pooh, Looney Tunes, Peanuts, and creating Baby Snoopy with Charles Schultz blessing. Anna is also a long-time Oz fan, illustrating Genie Wickwar's 2 Oz novels, The Hidden Prince of Oz and Toto of Oz, as well as stories for Oz Story magazine, the art for the Baum Bugle, Oziana, and the International Wizard of Oz Club's calendars. Her illustrations owe much to the classic pen and ink style of John Arneal, an inspiration since childhood. And I'd probably say, Anna, you and Eric Shano are both competing to be the new Neil.
We were actually roommates at the Joe Kubert School, and he got me to draw my first Oz pieces. But I was exposed to John Arneal as a child. So my connection with Oz is more of the artwork angle instead of reading all the books, which I confess I did not do. But I had this book,
Who's Who in Oz.
Who's Who in Oz. This is a first edition that I found in my elder brother's closet when I was a kid. And I thought, oh, look at all these great pictures of these unusual characters. And I just fell in love with this book. It's one of my favorite books ever. And so when I went to the Kubert School and met Eric, and Eric became familiar with my work, he decided to ask me, why don't you do this for the Oz Club or a calendar? And since then I've been doing lots of Oz art. And Andy happened to see a post I made on Facebook from the Hidden Prince of Oz. They were the end papers. And so that's when he approached me, because it looked so much like, well, owed a lot to the John Arneal pen and ink art. So that's how I'm started on this Kickstarter project, which is very cool, and it will be amazing putting this book into comic book form.
And I love that your little links with the Who's Who in Oz, which for some people would be a really obscure Oz book, which is kind of a collection of all the characters.
It is.
Yeah. And that John Arneal again seems to influence so many of us that are book Oz fans. So Denslow is probably synonymous with the original Wonderful Wizard of Oz. It's probably
Right.
up there with Tenniel's Alice in Wonderland that
Right.
people would know. But those that deep dive in the books, Neil, just straight away, we all 100% Neil fans. His artwork is just exquisite. He's not maybe such a great writer, but certainly his illustrations are luxurious. And I certainly a lot of Oz fans, myself included, love that both you and Eric take your own styles, but then adapt that Neil-esque style to it. So we're eternally grateful.
Oh, thank you. And drawing that way is the most natural way for me to draw, kind of a classic old illustration style. Yeah, I try different styles with other projects I've done, but I always return to that, and it feels very comfortable to me. So,
Wonderful. So I guess this is where we're coming into now. So this is a Kickstarter for a new comic book series. And assuming then from the way we've introduced both of you that Anna, you're going to be illustrating the comic book series, and Andy, you're going to be writing the comic book series.
Yeah, it's the Patchwork Girl of Oz is going to be a 3-part graphic novel series, and I separate that from, yes, it's comics, but you know, when you put more pages in, it's more of a graphic novel. It's a serialized graphic novel because there's 3 parts to it, but it's still it's not just a floppy comic. This is, you know, it's got a spine. It's a hefty chunk of the story in each of the 3 parts, and um, it really came about. I've been trying since about the time that Eric had started his Oz graphic novels. I've been trying to get an Oz project going ever since the early 90s. I first worked with Rob Roy McVeigh out of Seattle, who is a known Oz artist, and I have illustrations somewhere that he did for a project there. And then over the years, I've talked to various other artists since, including Eric. But Eric, of course, wants to do his own stuff mostly, and talked with various others. Most recently, I was going to do um, a series. This is prior to some of the books coming into public domain, and so I wanted to do a book about the history of Oz, at least to the point that the characters were in public domain. And I worked on it with an artist named Derek Gross, and who just passed away a couple of months ago. And so it's very difficult though, because I have a preconceived notion in my head over what the work should look like. And I feel as if it should look um, reminiscent of John Arneal. And although if you look at the actual technical art style of Eric Shanauer or Anna, it doesn't look like John Arneal, but the feel of it, the flow of it, and the texture of it is very much John Arneal. So it has been an issue of trying to find the right person for the project who could conceive of Oz in the same fashion that I see it. I'm not taking anything away from, say, Scotty Young or other people who've worked on some of the Oz books, except to say that's not how I would interpret it. And so when I saw Anna's illustration on Facebook, I was like, right there, right there. And I'd been friends with Anna for a while, and I knew her work from Marvel Comics and from was it Soul Searchers and Company?
yes.
Yeah, and
Barbie, Soul Searchers,
yeah,
Elvira.
I knew her work from those books, and so I knew, oh, she's very professional. But I hadn't made that connection yet that she was an Oz person as well. And then the moment I saw that, I was like, oh, she's the right artist, and she also knows Oz. And so I was like, immediately send her a message and let's get a project going.
Yay.
And I certainly know that on the Oz social media channels, when this Kickstarter started to get announced, that there was a lot of excitement for those Oz geeks out there of us that do love the kind of Neil-esque, I guess the right way is almost a forward movement from that kind of style straight away, and that we're going in on patchwork. And just for those that perhaps aren't familiar with what Andy is referring to, which is there was a Marvel comic book series that ran for six full graphic novels from the Wonderful Wizard of Oz through to the Emerald City of Oz that were made by Marvel with Scotty Young and Eric Shanower. And that series has now come to a close, and there's no continuation of that series. And this is what Andy was referring to. But also, is this why you're jumping in at Patchwork and not, say, starting at Wonderful Wizard?
Correct. I have always found in my career that when one is working on known properties, licensed projects, and properties that people know, it's always best not to step on what other creators have done, but to enhance what other creators have done. And so I did not want in any way to step on what Eric Shanauer did with or without Scotty Young. I wanted instead to forge ahead from there and to build on not just what they've done in comics, but also to build on the books. And I was very nervous because Eric is literally my neighbor. He just lives a block away. And I, I haven't known him quite as long as Anna has, but I really I have very high opinion of Eric Shanauer, and I was very nervous that he was going to say, "No, I don't want you to do this," or "No, this is my area," or something like that. And he's been nothing but generous in this. And so we are with the Patchwork Girl of Oz. We are picking up where he left off at Marvel, and our hope is that given the enormous sales that Marvel had and still continues to have with the trade paperbacks, that we will get, if we get even a fourth of that of what the Marvel sales were, then we're going to have a great selling book. Um, so uh, so that's where I wanted to pick up and enhance what Eric did.
I love that. And the Marvel series brought a whole new audience to Oz. A
Mhm.
lot from Scotty Young, because Scotty Young's traditions of the past, much more X-Men, if I remember right, that kind of comic book vibe. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm aware of, or certainly for before that point. And I know it introduced a load of people who'd never really considered the Oz series before.
Mhm.
His vision was very unique.
Yeah, and he has a very, it's one of the few illustrative adaptations that I can cope with his design, because there are some Oz designs over the years that I just like, I can't deal with it. Anna, quite clearly you made the shelf, so you're okay. But but it
Oh
is a very
God.
different interpretation.
Mhm.
So what do people need to do to get this Kickstarter off the ground? When I last looked, are we kind of a quarter of way through of the goals, Andy and Anna? What do you need people to do? What do you to get this out there? If people want this comic book series, we need to get this Kickstarter moving. So what do you need them to do, and what are they going to get in return?
They're going to get 3 lavishly illustrated graphic novels, beautifully inked by Barbara Kailberg, who inked me on Barbie years ago, and colored by Ronald, I don't know how to pronounce his last
Roland
name,
Pilks. Roland
Roland
Pilks.
Pilch. Okay. With his watercolor-like coloring, which will be beautiful, and Andy's adaptation, which I know it's going to be great and very faithful to the book, to the characters. Uh, Oz is an international beloved wonderland. It's America's wonderland, but everyone in the world knows about it and loves it. So we're going to do it proud.
Yeah, with the Kickstarter campaign, it's an interesting thing because you can have the best project or you can have the worst project, but your success depends on people supporting it.
Right.
And we have, I believe, the best project, and we're 12 days or 13 days into the project so far, and we've kind of stalled. We're at a certain point in our goal. And let me talk to you about what the goal means. When when I came to the creators for this, most of us are, shall we say, of a certain age, and that age is old enough to have had a long-term career in comics. And what that also means is old enough that editors, for the most part, love to ignore us. because they weren't born when our careers started. And to me, when you have a career that long, you're good. You've gotten past the not hitting deadlines. You've gotten past the not knowing how to draw something. You're good. You've built an audience, you've built all this stuff, and you should be hired. Unfortunately, comic book editors and comic book publishers now don't value long-term talent. And so one of the things that I was really excited about was putting some good, strong, long-term talent together. But I was also saying, you're going to be paid at the level that you should be paid. And we're going to produce this book at the level it should be. It's going to be really good paper. It's going to be great printing. It's going to look handsome and feel incredible. When people read this, I want them to be like, wow, this is everything I want. And that means we've got a bigger budget than many creators who say put out a black and white short 24-page comic or something. And that's not what we're doing. So we have a higher budget than normal, and the issue is that people have to support the Kickstarter, or because if you don't reach that budget, Kickstarter gives us nothing. And if we don't meet that goal, the book doesn't happen at all, or we have to go back to square one and try and figure out, okay, what do we do now? It's very important that if people want to see this happen, that they support the project ahead of time, because you're basically, it's kind of like having a child. You don't say, I'm going to send this child to college. You start right now, you start setting aside a college fund for the child when they're young so that you can build them towards that college. And this is the same way. If you want this project and future projects to be this fantastic, you say, I will support this to this level, and then when the project succeeds, you get what you want. um the Kickstarter is a whole new thing for, I think, Anna, this is your first one as well, isn't it?
Yes, it
And
is.
it's different than when you go to editors and you're hoping that they'll at least reply to your emails, which 90% of the time doesn't even happen these days.
Right.
For the most part, you never hear from editors or publishers any longer. They just don't respond. Um, the Whereas with Kickstarter, you're going directly to the fans, you're going directly to the readers, and you're saying, we are trying to give you what we think you want, what we want to do, but also what we think you want. Will you support it? And as Kickstarter has proven, the fans can speak the loudest. And so we're hoping that in this case, what they're going to say is, we want more Oz. And if we can pull off doing the Patchwork Girl of Oz 1, then we're going to do the second and third book in the series and finish the story, and then move on to the TikTok of Oz, and kind of move stories on from there, and perhaps do some original stories as well. Um, I think this is the start of a new Oz era, but we have to have the support from people at the start.
And I think what I'm asking for people of this channel to do is to support this Kickstarter. I will be signing up after this video goes live to support the comic. You're also getting less interference. Well, no interference from an editor. It's quite well known that the Emerald City of Oz by Marvel was cut down considerably from the first 5 books to help more from a profit perspective with Marvel. So we're not going to get that kind of interference. But Oz is on the cusp of another. If Wicked movie goes really, really well, the interest in Oz is going to jump up at the end of this year. So, and all it can take is, you can support this campaign from $1 up to a few $100s, depending on what it is that you want. So you're not just helping this project come alive, You've got Oz goodies. I've seen a Scraps pin. Scraps is the name for the Patchwork Girl. That's the name that she goes by in the books. She's a great character. I've seen a pin for the Woozy. You can see some of the artwork that Anna's already worked on the Kickstarter, but throughout this video, you will have seen them pop up on screen. And if you wait till the very, very end, I will run a little screen show of all the images that have been released so far, so you get a real feel for how rich this series will be. There are some big players involved in this particular book. We'll talk about a couple of those. You mentioned a couple of those names already. You can really get behind this, and this is what we want. If you want to see more and you were hungry at the end of Emerald City of Oz, this is the way to go. There are way more books in the Oz series. Patchwork Girl is just the halfway mark. L. Frank Baum ran on for another 7 books. Then it was picked up by Ruth Plumly Thompson. It goes all the way up to Anna's books and beyond. So the books Anna was involved in was one of the later royal historians as ordained by the International Wizard of Oz Club. You want more Oz, you want more creative Oz, and you want to support a book that is perhaps one of L. Frank Baum's best written Oz quest books, full stop. Many Oz fans would say that. It's definitely up in my top 5 Oz book series. Very little people know about it, so it'd be really, really cool to see this in graphic book form, taken by some exceptional artists who are going to take it to the next level, to an audience similar to Marvel. So please support this campaign. So I've seen a couple of names on the Kickstarter as well involved in this. So
Well, Anna can tell you about her. Talk about some about your involvement with Barb, because I think that's fun.
I'll be penciling the pages, and Barb, she'll be inking on her tablet, but she'll be using various nibs to make it look as Neil-esque as we can make it. And she's quite good. She's been in the business for many years. She inked me on several Barbie and Barbie fashion issues for Marvel back in the day, and I always loved her clean style. She's really quite good and a pleasure to work with. And that's all I can say about Barb. I just love her work, and she'll make me look very good.
We had an interesting discussion as we were developing what the look of the project would be, even about, as Anna said, even about what kind of nibs she used to ink with, because we wanted to get that that illustrative
Dip pen.
texture.
Yeah, dip pen.
And it was important that that be there too, that it not just be a clean comic book line or something, that it actually looked like it had some texture as she worked it.
Yeah.
And I knew what I wanted, but that was something where I was let Anna, Anna got to say, no, let's do this more, and let's do this more, because she knew in her mind what the finished art should look like. And when you're working with a penciler and an inker, they may not have exactly the same idea at the start. The trick is to get them onto that page where they're both happy with the art.
I'm
And
happy with it so
yeah,
far.
I think it looks fantastic.
Thank
And
you.
when I put the creative team together, there's, Anna is the penciler, Barb is the inker. Then I've also got Roland Pilks, who's the colorist, and Catherine Renta, who is the letterer and graphic designer for the series. She did this fantastic logo that you see behind us, except for the picture of Scraps that's in it, and that's by Anna and Barb and Roland.
And
Um,
Roland.
but I had worked with both Roland and Catherine on a book series I did called Wonder Woman 77 Meets the Bionic Woman. That was for Dynamite and DC Comics, and was tremendous. Roland is a Hungarian colorist, and I was tremendously impressed by his ability to kind of pick up different coloring styles. Even though he was doing it digitally, you'd never know. And it was really important to me that even the coloring style look original. I've taken all the color plates by Tenniel, and they've all been sent to Roland, scans of them, so that he can see how the color was textured, how the colorist on those books used it, and how the printing process created kind of an interesting model effect on it. And so he's following that in places. Catherine, I sent her all the chapter headings and all the logos for the books. And so she's basing her lettering on not just the text, but also on the chapter headings and so forth. So everybody's paying really close attention. And then our covers, we're going to have 3 covers for each issue. So for this Kickstarter is for book 1. And the cover's going to be Anna and Barb are doing what's called a wraparound cover, which means the picture will go from the front to the back. And it'll be one image across the whole thing. That'll be the first cover as a wraparound. The second cover will be by Eric Shanauer, and that will be what's called a connecting cover. So the image will be on the front, but then when the second book comes out, if you put them next to each other, it creates a wider image. And then the third book will come out and they'll create one long image. So that's a connecting cover. That'll be Eric Shanauer is doing 3 covers, if we do all 3 books. And then the third cover will be by none other than Alex Ross, who is perhaps the most celebrated artist in comic books today. And this is only the 3rd time he's ever done anything for Kickstarter. He's used to doing things like the posters for the Academy Awards. And he's pretty up there as far as comic art is concerned. Also happens to be a longtime friend of mine. And so he will be doing just the first cover, but it'll be a portrait of the main cast from the Patchwork Girl of Oz. And that'll be fully painted. So you will have your choice in the Kickstarter campaign. You have your choice of any of the 3 covers or all of the 3 covers. And then there's some other cool stuff in there, like you mentioned the pins. We have on the cheaper end, we've got like bookmarks, we've got the map of Oz, paper dolls, things like that. On a higher scale, we have you can be drawn into the comic by Anna and Barb, where you will actually be a citizen of Oz. Canonically, you'll be in Oz. And
Yeah, that's right, isn't it? You can be in one of the scenes either in the Munchkin country or in the Emerald City in the background, but it will be your face as illustrated by Anna.
yes.
One of the hosts on the OzConnection, Erica, I believe, has already signed up to one of those. So you want your face in there. Anna will draw it, and you will be in this comic book. So from
Yeah.
an Oz geek collector's perspective, someone who likes to collect multiple editions, if getting behind this project, you're going to be able to collect different covers, different collectibles. There's a whole plethora of stuff on the Kickstarter.
Yeah. It's not just going to be just a character in the background for some of them. Some of them might have lesser roles, but in book 1, there are some pretty some of them have speaking roles, because in the comic it's not just a straight up only adaptation of the book. It's an adaptation of the book, the 1914 film, the play that Baum did for the Patchwork Girl of Oz, and new material as well. So I'm taking all of those 3 original versions of the Patchwork Girl of Oz, melding them together, and adding material in that will be new to the storylines, especially in book 2, where we're finally going to see what was censored from the original story, which is the Garden of Meats.
Oh, wow.
And that will be in there will be a whole sequence in the Garden of Meats in book 2 or book 3, depending on how it works out. I think it's book 2 though. And you'll see characters that weren't in the book, but they were in the movie. And you'll see characters that are in the play, which most people have never read, and they're in the play, and now they're going to be in the comic adaptation. So really, I'm trying to take these things and put them, kind of meld them all together. So when you become a character, you might be the munchkin who gives Unc Donkey and Ojo directions to get to the magician's house. You might be uh, the daughter of of Nick's whose pictures on the wall. You might be an actual like speaking voice character. And so when Anna gets to draw these things, and I don't want her just to have to just draw, okay, let's put a bunch of faces in the background. I want it to be fun for the creators as well as the fans.
Andy, I cannot wait to read these scripts. Just can't wait. It'll be a lot of fun to do and to put real people into it too.
Yeah, I'm kind of even more fascinated now, and this is where it's showing the natural evolution from Eric's attempts at the Oz series, because he also took elements from the musical stage plays and weaved them into the book, so that the version you were reading is an amalgamation of these things and with some extra three-dimensional dramatization as well in there. So I'm very, very curious to see what you guys come up with. I'm really excited.
Yeah, yeah. One of the interesting things for me as a creator who has worked on a lot of these licensed projects is finding the cracks in the stories and figuring out, do I want to fill that crack in now, or do I want to leave that crack in to fill in later? And even as I'm working on this early stuff, I'm like, ooh, this could be the start of a whole different new story, So um, I think that there's very, very clearly a potential for more Oz stories that are original that'll be coming from me and or Anna and Barb in the team, um, assuming that this Kickstarter works well, and assuming that we get to do this, and really in doing the Kickstarter, it's a chance for fans too to show you're putting your money and your faith where the creative people are, not in the company. You aren't investing in Marvel. You're investing in Anna. You're investing in Barb and Roland and Catherine and myself and the cover artists. You're saying our work is important enough that you want to see it, which editors didn't and publishers didn't. They don't think there's an audience for Oz. They don't think that as older creators we have value. And I think that the fans have the opportunity to say this now, and I think they will. We have to power through and make this happen.
Yeah, we've got to get the
Yes, we
message
do.
out there, 100%. So, come on, guys, get on Kickstarter, invest in Anna, invest in Andy, invest in the team, invest in more Oz beyond the MGM Wizard of Oz. This is your opportunity to absolutely do that, no matter what you can afford, from $1 and upwards. Get in there. All the links will be down below in the comments for you to be able to do that. I'll also post a link of an interview that I have with Eric Shanower and Scotty Young on the Marvel Oz series, given that there's a natural progression from those two as well. I guess before we wrap up, maybe it might be worthwhile just plucking out some little bits of the story and some of the characters that are in this book for those that might be less familiar, that may have followed the Marvel Oz series but have never read the book.
I wanted to talk about the glass cat, who is first introduced in the Patchwork Girl of Oz. And she's an amazing very vain character. I've drawn her many times. I love drawing her. She's proud of her. She's a transparent cat, a glass figurine brought to life, and proud of her pink brains, and keeps saying, you can see them work, and her red ruby heart and her emerald eyes. She's just a fun character. The other one is the Woozy,
Mm-hmm.
that I adore, and he's introduced. He's a very strange character, kind of like a dog made of blocks, and unique in all of Oz. There's nothing else like him there, and he's a lot of fun to draw. He gets rescued by the Patchwork Girl and Ojo, the Munchkin boy. Uh, he was kept in a prison and was released, and he's just he tags along and does a great helps out with the quest. And there will be a pin of him too, apparently, and he's a wonderful character. I love him, the Woozy.
The you asked too about the classic Oz characters. So most of the classic ones show up in book 2 and 3, although they're referenced in book 1
Yes.
because and this is one of the elements that I'm taking from the whole of it, which is um, in any real world land, somebody like Dorothy, of course, everyone's going to know Ozma, but somebody like Dorothy would be a celebrity
Yeah.
in a way. People would know the story of Dorothy, even if they've never met her or seen her, because how would they have seen her unless they met her? But they know the story of that. They know the legend of Dorothy's journey, and they know the legend of some of these other things. So um, I'm playing around with that some in how in how the world of Oz views itself. Um, but so in book 1, the main characters, obviously, Anna mentioned Bungle the Glass Cat and the Woozy, and then Scraps, the Patchwork Girl, is the lead character, and this make
Ojo.
yeah, David Maxine, who is Eric Shanower's husband, um, is our consulting editor on this project, and he is very, he knows everything about Oz, and he's keeping everything in line, and I think it makes him a little crazy when I say this, but Patchwork Girl is she's kind of anarchy. She is the Deadpool, the Deadpool or the Harley Quinn of of Oz. She's just she's very free spirited. She doesn't she may know the rules, but that doesn't mean she wants to follow them. She's not mean spirited like say Harley Quinn is, or and she's not adult as Deadpool is, but she has that sense of uh almost almost knowing she's in a story, where she's just like she's ready to stretch beyond the borders. And I love what Anna's done with the art so far, and the gestural stuff that she's able to do with a character who doesn't have bones, and so she can kind of do anything with herself, and she does. you know and then Ojo the Unlucky is a Munchkin boy, and as with all Oz stories, there's a quest. Somebody has to go on a quest, and Ojo is the person who goes on the quest this time. And it's not directly of his making that the quest happens. It's Patchwork Girl actually causes some problems, and Ojo has to go on the quest to help fix that. Um, but so we've got a young boy character instead of a young female protagonist. We've got this anarchic um Patchwork Girl. We've got a dog-like character who's far more interesting than just a dog, although I love dogs. And we've got this super vain cat, and they're the catalyst for issue 1. And then as we go into book 2 and 3, it will expand to include Dorothy and the Scarecrow and Ozma and the Wizard, and many other characters of Oz do show up. But for book 1, those 4 characters are the catalyst. And that's why in the Kickstarter, uh, with the extras, we are only doing certain characters, because the plan is that when we do book 2 and 3, we'll do the other characters as well. So yes, in this Kickstarter, you can get, say, an enamel pin of Scraps and Woozy, but in book 2, you can get Ojo and the Glass Cat, and then book 3, you'll get whichever characters we do there. The same thing with, I'm making custom dolls for the project, and there's a style of dolls called Migos. They're 8-inch dolls, and they made Wizard of Oz ones. They made them for the movie. Fans love them, and I do custom Migos as one of the many plates I spin. And so I'm doing original handcrafted custom Migo dolls, and for book 1, it's of the Patchwork Girl. This is you aren't seeing the look of this, but this was kind of a set. We were testing out how full to make her skirt, and it'll be this size of doll. And I'll send you images that you can put up of what the head will look like, and then what the bodysuit will look like once it's printed. But it'll be a full functioning doll. It'll come in a box, just like if you bought it at a store. And then book 2 and book 3 will have other characters, so that you can build your own Oz and hopefully play with the characters and have your own adventures, just like when we were kids.
So
That's right.
cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So
I mean,
cool.
there's a whole bunch of Oz fans out there that just collect Oz dolls, let alone any of the books or the films
Yeah.
or anything like that. That's really cool. Very, very exciting.
Hey, you didn't mention yet, so I'll throw this out there. All week I've been doing Oz songs as part of, I do a project called 366 Days of Oz. Well, 366 Days of Song. Boy, if it were 366 Days of Oz, that
That
would
would
be
be a lot of
impressive.
Oz songs.
So it's 366 days of song, and I sing a song live. This is why my voice sounds a little thrashed right now. I sing a song live every day and post it. And all week this week, which will now be last week,
Yep.
all week this week, I have been doing songs from Oz in celebration of this Kickstarter campaign. And that ranges from songs you know really well, like, say, Popular from Wicked. Today's song will be the complete version of Over the Rainbow, which is the version I'm singing today, is the full version that has never been recorded in history. This
Wow.
version, which has all the verses, has never been recorded, and I'm singing it today.
Okay.
I also sang the Patchwork Girl song from the Rainbow Road to Oz that Disney did. So even all of us, Anna's been putting up a lot more artwork of her Oz work. All of us are kind of showcasing, these are the ways in which we love Oz. Please help us bring this. If you believe in people who actually care about Oz, if you believe in them and their work and their passion, help bring it to life.
Yes, 100%. Wonderful. So if people wanted to reach out to you in any way, in what ways can they follow you online? We'll go with Anna first.
I have an Art of Anna Maria Cool Facebook page. And I do showcase a lot of my art there, not all of it. And a regular Facebook page, Anna Maria Be Cool. And I'm on Instagram and what else? LinkedIn. I haven't been there in a long time, but now I'm back. And TikTok too, but there's just a couple of short videos of me drawing Patchwork Girl art, and that's it.
And Andy,
I've got a whole link tree of things to view me at, from my personal webpage to my singing stuff, which has its own YouTube channel. Um, the the best way to link up to any of the creators is actually at the bottom of our Kickstarter campaign. There's bios for each of us, and there's links there that will take you to the work of each of those creators and let you kind of explore the world of their career and to see where they've come from before this project, so that you can see how talented each of them are. Um, Comics is a really interesting medium. When Baum got to collaborate with Neil, and they were creating what Oz would be in people's minds, it was two people creating a a thing, static pictures and static words. And then Baum did the Patchwork Girl of Oz movie, and then you started to see characters moving. You didn't hear them yet, but you got to see them moving at least. And with comics, there's the illusion of movement and action, and because of the word balloons and so forth, you are hearing them. You Comics are really, I think, of all the art forms that are around right now, it's the one that is the most accessible for people of any age.
Mhm.
That mixture of art and text is exactly what we look at when we look at our cell phones, when we scroll down the internet and so forth. We're looking at art and text together, and comics are that. That's exactly what comics are and have been. They're just that in a much better way. you know and so you can still imagine things beyond what we're doing, but we're actually showing you that, and hopefully that enhances your experience of Baum's original story.
100%. Comics are almost just off the cusp of being animation in terms of what they portray and the flavor of them. So I guess as we're coming towards what feels more of an actual end, is any closing thoughts that either you have in terms of the project, the Patchwork Girl of Oz, that you would like to leave the audience with?
Hmm.
I think that some of the things I've expressed so far about supporting the creators, um, understand that on this project, the Patchwork Girl of Oz, and hopeful future projects, that everybody who's working on it is an Oz fan, and that is a big difference. And we are fans of what Oz is and was. Not We're not taking Oz into a radical new direction. We're not adding blood and boobs. We're not turning it into an R-rated revenge fantasy or a Western or none of that. This is Oz. This is pure Oz. And there's a reason that Oz is the best selling, longest running, and most best known book series, not just children's book series, but book series of all time. There is no uh, concept out there that has had as many books as Oz. There's not as many Sherlock Holmes books. There's not as many Tarzan books. There's not as many Mickey Mouse books. There is this is the big leagues, and it's certainly bigger than Harry Potter, and it will outlast that. It has been around for 113 or 123 years now, and it will continue to be around because the land of Oz is magical. And so with this project, you are supporting people who support that concept.
I agree with everything Andy said, and I want to add that we're doing this with love for Oz. And I think that's going to show through our work. And Oz is just a magical place that we're very attuned to, and we just want to share it with you, our supporters.
I love that. Your enthusiasm for Oz really comes through, and for that flavor to come through, there's room for all Oz's, but there has been a watering down over the last few years of everything must be dark Oz or an alternate Oz. And there is this entire magical series that could be woven into comic book series, Netflix style series that studios just don't want to touch because everyone measures it against MGM. So this is a real opportunity to see this come to life and start showing the world out there that there is appetite for Oz by getting behind this and supporting the creators of this by supporting the Kickstarter. All the links will be down below in the comments for you to go and support this Kickstarter, along with the links where you can see Andy, Anna, and the rest of the team's work. So please do support this campaign. It's such a good story. It deserves this level of attention. So thank you both very much for sharing with me this Kickstarter project. And I will be rooting from the sides to daily looking at the Kickstarter campaign. And please comment down below when you have joined the Kickstarter campaign. Let us know. Nothing would excite me more to know that this video has helped this campaign to continue and to grow. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you, Colin. Thanks,
Thank
Andy.
you, Colin. It's been wonderful seeing you again. It's been since OzCon, and I appreciate your attention and your passion for Oz and this project.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And we will see you all on the next episode of OzConnect. Have a great day.